My name is Nathan Reed. I'm 34, and if you asked anyone who knew me before all this, they'd probably say I was a quiet guy. Predictable. The kind of man who keeps his head down, does his job, pays his bills on time, and doesn't make waves. And they wouldn't be wrong. I work as a systems administrator for a mid-sized tech firm in Seattle. It's not glamorous. No one ever writes movies about guys like me. But I like the routine, the certainty, the comfort of knowing exactly how the day would go. Wake up, coffee, check server logs, fix what's broken, eat lunch at my desk, drive home. Home. That word used to mean something. It used to mean Claire. Claire Bennett. My wife. She's 30. Works in the banking sector, high up at a sleek commercial firm downtown. You know the type, corner office, power heels, blazer sharp enough to cut glass. She was always driven, always reaching. I admired that about her. I still do, in some twisted, distant way. We met 6 years ago, and everything between us had a sort of calm stability to it. No fireworks, no whirlwind romance, just two people who fit neatly into each other's lives like puzzle pieces that happened to land close enough. We didn't have kids, not yet. She said she wanted to wait until she made VP. I didn't mind. Honestly, I liked having her to myself. Or at least, I thought I had her. Our relationship wasn't passionate, but it was peaceful. Steady. We had our little rituals, Tuesday night takeout and crime dramas. Friday nights where we half-watched a series while she worked on her laptop and I tinkered with old PCs. Sunday grocery runs where we always bought the same stupid frozen waffles even though neither of us really liked them. It wasn't a romance novel. It was life. Real, quiet, grown-up life. I fixed things. That's what I do. At work, at home. The thermostat, the router, the leaky faucet. Claire would always call me her resident wizard. I liked being needed. And when she came home late, hair tousled and blouse creased from a long day, she'd look at me with tired eyes and say, "It's for us. For the future." I believed her. God help me, I believed every word. But looking back now, there was something too perfect about it all. Too controlled. Like I was living in a life someone else had designed, and I just happened to be the guy playing the husband role in her perfectly curated future. We didn't argue. Not because we were so in sync, but because she never let me close enough to have real conflict. If something bothered her, she buried it in her work. If I felt distance growing between us, I told myself it was just stress, just a phase, just life. That's the thing about silence. It feels safe, until you realize it's where rot begins. I'd watch her sometimes, across the room, fingers flying across her keyboard, lips pressed tight, brows furrowed in concentration. I'd wonder if she was still happy. I never asked. And she never told me. Maybe we were both afraid of the answer. I used to think love meant comfort. Now I'm not so sure. Maybe love is supposed to be louder, wilder, messier. Ours was a quiet kind of love, like a song played on low volume in another room. You know it's there, but you can't quite make out the words. There was a time when I would have said I trusted Claire with everything. My heart. My future. My name. But trust is only as strong as the silence you let live between you. It was a Thursday night when it happened. I remember it clearly because it was the first time in a long while that I stayed up past midnight waiting for Claire. She'd told me about the corporate party earlier that week. Just a team-building thing, she said, with that clipped efficiency she used whenever she wanted to avoid a longer conversation. Some wine, some speeches, nothing wild. I told her to have fun, kissed her on the cheek, and went back to debugging a server migration. But something about the way she said it, it stuck in my mind. Too prepared. Too rehearsed. The house was quiet that night. Too quiet. I tried watching a movie, but the dialogue just turned to white noise in my head. I kept glancing at the time, at my phone, then back at the door. 9:15, 10:47, 11:32, 12:08. At 12:41, I heard the car door slam. I didn't get up right away. I stayed in my seat, heart pounding in my ears for reasons I couldn't explain. The key slid into the lock. A pause. Then the door opened. Claire stepped inside, heels in one hand, her phone in the other. Her hair was a little messier than usual, strands falling over her shoulder. Her lipstick was faded. The navy blue dress she'd picked out, sleek, tasteful, conservative, was wrinkled, clinging in places it usually didn't. And near the hem, stains. Her eyes met mine for a split second. Not surprise. Not guilt. Just irritation. "Hey," she muttered, toeing off her shoes. "Didn't think you'd be up." I tried to keep my voice steady. "Everything all right?" She rolled her eyes like I'd just asked if the sky was still blue. "Yeah. It's a corporate event, not Mardi Gras." I stood, walked closer. That's when I saw it, tiny droplets on her dress, high up near the waistline, and a wrinkle across her back like someone had grabbed the fabric from behind. Her perfume smelled stronger than usual, sharper, mixed with something else. Something musky. I gestured to the stain. What happened? She barely glanced down. Taxi driver slammed on the brakes, white wine spilled. No big deal. Her tone cut through me like glass. Cold, final. A warning not to push. Still, I tried. Claire, that doesn't look like, don't. Her eyes locked onto mine now, ice cold. Don't make something out of nothing, Nathan. I'm exhausted. Can we not? Exhausted. That word again. Her get out of jail free card. Every time she didn't want to talk. Every time she didn't want to touch me. Every time she came home late with no explanation, no warmth. I swallowed the lump in my throat and nodded. She brushed past me, not even a glance back, and disappeared into the bedroom. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Not a slam. Not a fight. Just distance. And I stood there, alone, in the middle of our dimly lit living room, staring at the space where she'd just been, trying to believe her. Trying to tell myself that I was just tired, that maybe I was being paranoid. But the thing is, when you know someone, really know them, you don't need proof. You feel the truth before it ever shows itself. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to her while she breathed evenly, facing the wall, her back turned. I watched the faint light of her phone blink on the nightstand, each soft pulse carving new cracks into my trust. I wanted to ask her again. I wanted to wake her up and say, tell me the truth, Claire, please. If there's something happening, say it now. Don't make me find it on my own. But I didn't. Because deep down, I was afraid of what she might say. Instead, I closed my eyes and let the silence swallow me whole. And that's when the first seed of doubt took root. Small, quiet, but stubborn. Burrowing deep into the space between what I wanted to believe and what I already knew. Something changed after that night. I don't know if it was her or me, but something between us cracked open, and it never quite closed again. Maybe it was how she stopped kissing me goodbye in the mornings. Or how the warmth in her eyes vanished, replaced with something distant, distracted, like I was just another task on her never-ending list. Maybe it was how she started saying, I'm tired, in that flat, robotic way, like pressing play on a voicemail she recorded weeks ago. Or maybe it was just me. Seeing ghosts in empty rooms. Looking too hard for signs I didn't want to find. But it was there. I know it was. She started avoiding me in ways that didn't feel accidental. At first, I chalked it up to work. Claire was always busy. The bank had deadlines. Reports. Clients. It made sense, until it didn't. One night, I reached for her in bed. It wasn't even sexual, I just wanted to feel her close, to remind myself that we were still us, whatever that meant. My hand found her waist, slow and careful, like I was approaching a skittish animal. She flinched. I have a meeting early, she said, not even looking at me. Please, not tonight. I didn't say anything. I just rolled over and stared at the ceiling, trying to ignore the thudding in my chest. She said it like it was routine. Like saying no to me had become muscle memory. The next day, I watched her more closely. It wasn't anything obvious. Claire had always been guarded, even when we first met. But now, she was strategic. She'd pause when texting, tilting her screen away. Step into the hallway to take calls. Her laughter, when it came, sounded foreign, like she was saving it for someone else. I stopped trying to connect. I started observing. And what I saw broke my heart more than any screaming match ever could. She didn't touch me anymore. Not casually, not meaningfully. Not at all. The little gestures, rubbing my shoulder when I sat at the desk, stealing a bite of my dinner, brushing lint off my shirt, they were gone. Like they'd never been there to begin with. One evening, we sat side by side on the couch, a sitcom flickering on the screen. She scrolled through her phone, lips twitching in a faint smile. I glanced over. You texting someone? I asked, keeping my voice light. She didn't look up. Work. Late for work stuff, huh? A pause. Then, clipped, I said it's work, Nathan. Can we not do this tonight? Can we not? That phrase. She used it like a shield, holding it between us like it would deflect the truth forever. Later that night, I opened our bedroom window just a little, just enough to feel the cold bite of October air. She muttered something about it being too chilly and curled further away from me beneath the blankets. Even the cold couldn't make her reach for me. The next day, she didn't touch her coffee, didn't say goodbye. She just walked out the door with her hair perfectly pinned, heels clicking down the front steps like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. I started checking timestamps. When she left, when she came back. The gap between them kept growing. She'd say she stayed late to finish reports, to help out a junior associate, to prep for an audit. The excuses always sounded polished, just enough detail to be believable, but never enough to invite more questions. And I didn't push. Because somewhere deep down, I already knew. It wasn't just distance, it was absence. Her body was here, sure. But Claire was already gone. I began replaying memories in my head, not because I missed her, but because I was trying to find the moment she started slipping away. Was it weeks ago? Months? A year? Had she ever really been mine, or was she always just passing through, waiting for something better? One night, I dreamt I was standing in our kitchen. Everything looked normal, except the house was completely silent. Not peaceful. Hollow. Like all the sounds had been vacuumed out of the world. Claire was there, back to me, typing something on her phone. I walked up behind her, touched her shoulder, but she didn't move. "Claire," I whispered. She turned. But it wasn't her. It was someone else, wearing her face like a mask. Cold eyes, painted smile. I woke up in a sweat, the sheets tangled around me, the side of the bed beside me empty. She hadn't come home that night. I didn't text. I didn't call. I just sat there in the dark, listening to the refrigerator hum, and wondered how long a heart could bleed before it just stopped trying. And that's when the doubt turned to something darker. Not anger. Not yet. But a seed. Something sharp. Something growing. It happened the following week. Claire came home earlier than usual. Not early, exactly, just earlier. Around 8 p.m. She had her arms full of documents, her laptop bag slung over one shoulder, and this frazzled look in her eyes I hadn't seen in a while. Not distant. Not cold. Just busy. She walked in and dropped the stack of papers onto the dining table with a sigh that seemed to carry the weight of 1,000 deadlines. "I'm drowning," she muttered, running a hand through her hair. "The audit from New York got moved up, and now the partners want projections by Monday morning. They're freaking out. I'm probably gonna be up all night." Her voice was tight but familiar. Like the Claire I used to know, sharp, overwhelmed, in control of the chaos. I stood there in the kitchen, halfway through stirring pasta on the stove, and blinked at her like I was seeing a ghost. She looked back at me, not through me, not past me. At me. And just like that, something inside me loosened. "You want me to heat something up for you?" I asked gently. She nodded. "Yeah. Whatever's easiest. I can't think straight right now." I fixed her a plate. We didn't sit together, but I watched from across the kitchen while she ate at the dining table, flipping through printouts and pecking at her keyboard between bites. Her sleeves were rolled up. Her hair was in a loose knot. There was no makeup, no perfume, no armor. She looked real. For a moment, I let myself believe it. She's tired, not distant. Busy, not cruel. The red wine, the coldness, the withdrawal, maybe it really was work. Maybe I'd blown everything out of proportion. I wanted that version of the story more than anything. She stayed up most of the night, eyes locked on her screen, occasionally scribbling notes on a legal pad like a woman possessed. I offered tea, brought her a blanket, dimmed the lights. She thanked me, mumbled something about how she didn't know what she'd do without me. And I smiled. God help me, I smiled. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. In the morning, she was still asleep on the couch, her laptop open on her lap and a half-finished chart glowing on the screen. I covered her with a throw blanket and stood there watching her for a while, chest rising and falling slowly, peacefully. She looked like someone I knew. Someone I loved. When I left for work that day, I told myself everything was fine. I told myself it had just been a rough patch, a miscommunication, a season we had to weather like every couple does. She was working. She was exhausted. She was fighting for our future. It was easier to believe that than to accept the gnawing voice that whispered otherwise. I made coffee that morning with more care than usual. Texted her a good luck message with a little heart emoji. Even picked up her favorite takeout on the way home. She wasn't there when I got back. I waited until 9. Then 10. By midnight, I stopped checking the driveway. No text. No call. Just silence. Her laptop was gone from the living room. The documents too. The blanket I'd draped over her was folded neatly on the edge of the couch. And the coffee mug I'd left out for her that morning. Still full. Untouched. Cold. I stood in the doorway and stared at it like it might say something. But it didn't. Neither did she. The next day, I tried to talk to myself like a rational man. She probably got called in. Maybe she slept at the office. These things happen. But the comfort I felt the night before was already cracking, peeling away like old paint, revealing what I'd tried so hard to ignore. That night, I sat in bed, the takeout still in its bag on the kitchen counter, untouched. The house was still. Her side of the bed stayed empty. And my phone stayed silent. But the worst part wasn't the absence. It was the quiet hope trying to crawl back into my chest. The kind that whispers, maybe tomorrow will be different. That's the most dangerous lie of all. It happened on a Sunday night. Claire had just stepped into the shower. I was in the kitchen, rinsing out a mug when her phone buzzed on the counter behind me. One buzz. Then another. Then 3 in a row. Normally, I wouldn't even notice. Wouldn't care. But something in the way they came, rapid, urgent, made my stomach twist. I told myself not to look. I told myself I was better than that. We were better than that. But the phone was right there. Face up. Lit. And then, it happened. A push notification slid across the top of her lock screen. New photo received, so good seeing you today. Underneath it, a blurry image loaded in the tiny preview pane. I froze. It was Claire. Standing in a hallway. Her hair was down, wet at the ends like she'd just come from the pool. She was smiling. But not the polite smile she gave clients. No. This one was different. And next to her, his arm around her waist, was a man I'd never seen before. Older. In a suit. Smug. Familiar in a way that made my skin crawl. Behind them, clear as day, a hotel hallway. A hotel. My hands went cold. Not shaky, numb. The kind of cold that sinks straight into your bones when the world suddenly tilts the wrong way. I stared at the screen, heart thudding against my ribs like it was trying to claw its way out. My brain raced to rewrite the scene. Maybe it's innocent. Maybe it's an old photo. Maybe it's a joke. A joke, right. But even as I thought it, I felt the lie splintering inside me. The time stamp was from today. Today. While I was home cleaning out the garage and reheating leftover pasta, she was with him. I stared at the image again. Her smile was effortless. Leaning into him like they belonged there, like it wasn't even wrong. Like I didn't exist. I heard the water still running upstairs. 1,000 things raced through my mind. I could confront her. Ask her right now. Demand answers. Yell. Scream. Break something. Anything. But I didn't move. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, phone still in my hand, my reflection faintly visible in the black part of the screen. And in that moment, I didn't see a husband. I saw a fool. A man clinging to an illusion. A man who still made excuses for her when the truth was staring him in the face, bright and sharp and ugly. The shower turned off. I quickly set the phone down exactly where I'd found it, like it might burn me if I held it too long. Like touching it had somehow made everything real. I backed away from the counter and sat on the edge of the couch, hard hammering, my palms slick with sweat. She came downstairs a few minutes later, wrapped in her robe, hair damp, skin glowing from the steam. She looked relaxed. At ease. Hey, she said casually, toweling her hair. You eat already? I nodded slowly. Yeah. Just leftovers. She didn't press. Just walked past me into the bedroom like everything was fine. Like there wasn't a landmine buzzing on the counter behind her. And I said nothing. Not because I was afraid of her response. But because part of me still hoped, still begged, that there was some explanation. Some thread I could hold onto that would unravel this awful image and tie the world back together. I lay in bed that night staring at the ceiling while she slept beside me, breathing steady and slow. But I didn't sleep. I couldn't. That photo kept burning into the back of my eyelids. Her smile. His hand. The hotel carpet. It happened the very next night. She'd fallen asleep early, or at least, pretended to. She'd come home around 10 p.m., claiming she was burnt out from another late work session. Her tone was distant, clipped, but carefully neutral, as if she were trying not to raise suspicion. She didn't touch her dinner. Didn't ask how my day was. Didn't even take her phone into the bedroom, which was unusual. Claire never left that thing behind. Ever. And that's what made me pause. The screen was glowing softly on the coffee table. Notifications blinking in rhythm. A message preview rolled across the top, "You free tonight?" Beneath it, a name I didn't recognize. Just initials, TD. She was in bed by then, face turned to the wall, the soft rhythm of her breathing steady, mechanical. I sat on the edge of the couch, heart pounding again. But this time, I didn't hesitate. The phone wasn't locked. I don't know why. Maybe she trusted me too much. Or maybe she just didn't care anymore. I picked it up, thumb trembling, and opened the message thread. TD was Travis Delaney, her boss. It didn't take long to piece together. There were weeks of messages, casually written, always timed late at night or early morning. And underneath the banter, an unmistakable intimacy. The kind that only grows when people believe no one is watching. Can't wait for tomorrow. Gonna tell him I'm exhausted again. Loved how you tasted last night. My place Friday. He's got a tech summit or something. I kept scrolling. Faster now. Each swipe cut deeper than the last. Photos. One of her, lying on a bed in lace. Arching her back like a pose from a magazine. Eyes half closed, lips parted. One of him, shirtless, holding a glass of wine. Hotel wallpaper in the background. Smirking. I stared at the screen, not blinking, not breathing. They had code names. Inside jokes. Nicknames for me, the ghost, she called me once. Houseplant husband. That one stung the most. It wasn't just the sex. God knows that would have been enough. It was the way she laughed in those texts. The comfort. The joy. She was alive in those words in a way she hadn't been with me in over a year. And suddenly, everything made sense. Every night she said she was too tired. Every morning she left early and didn't kiss me goodbye. Every time I reached for her and she recoiled like I was a stranger. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was furniture. I was the disguise she wore so she could feel safe while lying. My hands were shaking. Not from rage, no, not yet. Just the sheer shock of it all. The intimacy. The frequency. The depth. This wasn't an affair. It was a second life. A better one, in her eyes. And I never saw it coming. I thought I'd fall apart in that moment. Thought I'd scream or throw the phone or sob into the couch cushions. But instead, I sat there in absolute stillness, numb to everything but the fire building behind my eyes. There was no coming back from this. No therapy. No conversations. No working through it. This wasn't a crack in the foundation, it was a demolition. She was still asleep when I walked into the bedroom. Or pretending to be. I stood over her, the phone still in my hand, the last message glowing on the screen, tell him whatever. I've got half the night for you. Her breathing hitched. Just slightly. I knew then, she wasn't sleeping. She just didn't want to face me. And I didn't have the strength to speak. I placed the phone on the nightstand, deliberately, quietly. I didn't sleep the night I read those messages. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. I just sat in the dark with my laptop open, watching the cursor blink on a blank page, feeling the weight of my own silence settle into my bones like frost. Something inside me had clicked, like a switch. Like the final piece of some horrible puzzle had slid into place, and the full image, the full betrayal, finally revealed itself. Claire wasn't just unfaithful. She was deliberate, cruel, strategic. She lied with precision, smiled with calculation, looked me in the eye every single day and fed me the same dead promises while her body belonged to someone else. And I had been her fool, her cover, the comfortable shadow she retreated into after spending her nights in someone else's arms. But I wasn't going to be that shadow anymore. I don't know exactly when the idea came to me. Maybe it was sometime around 4 a.m., when the screen burned into my vision and I found myself logged into one of those old private forums I hadn't touched in years. Places from another life. A life I left behind when I decided to settle down. Be responsible. Be good. Back when I was 22, I wasn't the man Claire married. Back then, I was the ghost in someone else's server. The nightmare in a data center. The guy corporations hired bounty hunters to track down, and never could. There's something about betrayal that strips away who you pretended to be and drags the old you back to the surface. So I let him out. I dropped a message into a thread I hadn't visited in nearly a decade. Need a favor. Quiet. Target. Fintech. High-level access. We'll trade old scripts and keys. DM if you remember the name, nullpath. It took 7 minutes. Null. Holy. Didn't think you were still breathing. We talked. Not about Claire. Not directly. But I told them enough. Within an hour, I had a backdoor exploit for the security software Claire's bank was still using. A vulnerability I helped build when I was still running red team ops as a freelancer under the table. It was old code. But deadly. I didn't want chaos. I wanted surgical precision. The target wasn't Claire. It was Travis Delaney, the man whose hands had been all over my wife, the man who laughed with her in hotel beds, who called me the houseplant in private threads. Travis wasn't just her lover. He was the executive VP of digital infrastructure at one of the most secure commercial banks in the city. And he had a crypto wallet. A big one. I spent 3 days planning. Claire thought I was just quiet, wounded, processing. She gave me space, maybe even felt a flicker of guilt. I let her. I played the part, the grieving husband. Meanwhile, I built a payload, a tiny, invisible Trojan disguised as a harmless system diagnostic tool, untraceable, undetectable unless you knew exactly what to look for. And then I waited for the right opportunity. I told Claire I wanted to visit her at work. Talk, I said. Maybe try to fix things. Her face flickered with something, hesitation, panic. But then she forced a smile and said her office wasn't the place for personal stuff. That was fine. I didn't need to go through her. I called the bank and scheduled a consultation. Told them I was a small business owner looking to open a commercial account, move some crypto into more traditional holdings. Claire didn't even know I made the appointment. She wasn't there when I arrived, but Travis was. Polished suit. White teeth. The whole alpha male routine turned up to 11. He shook my hand like we were equals. God. He didn't even know who I was. The receptionist asked me if I had any materials to share. I handed over a generic-looking flash drive. My accountant prepped some statements, I said. You can just plug it in. It should open automatically. They smiled, nodded. I left 20 minutes later. Calm, polite, invisible. Just a name in a logbook. 3 days later, Travis Delaney's crypto wallet was drained. $4 million, gone. Not transferred. Not traceable. Just, gone. Encrypted and dumped into a cold wallet buried in a fog chain of dead nodes and orphaned keys. I would never touch the money. Didn't care to. It wasn't about that. It was about the void. The hollow look I imagined on his face when he logged in and saw a balance of 0. The chaos that would ripple through his office. The desperate meetings. The shouting. The FBI reports. The fall. I sat at my desk that night, the screen dimmed, and sipped my coffee while the news quietly rolled across the bottom of the finance site I'd kept open. Executive VP under investigation for breach of internal protocols. Sources say digital assets were compromised. Internal review ongoing. I didn't smile. Didn't celebrate. This wasn't victory. This was balance. Claire didn't suspect a thing. If she knew Travis was unraveling, she didn't show it. Maybe he was too afraid to tell her. Maybe he didn't even realize how deep the knife had gone. But me. I knew. I knew exactly how far I'd pushed it. And I didn't feel guilty. Because while she was off writing love letters in hotel beds, I was in the shadows. Preparing. And when the time came, I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I simply reached out from the silence she left me in, and pulled the whole damn floor out from under them. It was a Thursday morning. The kind of morning that felt like any other. Sunlight leaking through the curtains. The soft chime of email notifications in the background. Claire making coffee in the kitchen like we weren't ghosts passing each other in the same house. I'd been calm since the drop. Too calm, probably. She'd noticed. Asked once if I was okay. I told her I was fine. And in a way, I was. Or I had been, until I saw the black sedan pull up outside our house. No sirens. No screeching tires. Just, presence. 2 men stepped out. Both in plain clothes, but everything about them screamed law enforcement. The posture. The caution. The rhythm of their movements. I didn't panic. I just stood at the window and watched them approach our front door like they already knew what they'd find inside. Claire was humming in the kitchen. She didn't even hear the knock. I opened the door. Mr. Reed, one of them asked, holding up a badge. Nathan Reed. Yes. We're with financial crimes. We need to ask you a few questions. May we come in? Claire appeared in the hallway behind me, wiping her hands on a dish towel. What's going on? She asked, eyes narrowing. The agents glanced at each other. There's been a breach at Horizon Commercial Bank, the taller one said. A system intrusion. We believe a USB device was used to deliver malicious code to one of their terminals. We're speaking to everyone who had recent contact with the institution. I stayed silent. Claire looked confused. Wait. Horizon. That's where I work. Exactly, the agent said. We're conducting a full review. I let them in. Let them sit on our couch. Answered their questions with measured calm. They asked if I'd visited the bank recently. I said yes. I told them I'd been exploring commercial account options. They asked if I'd brought any digital media with me. I nodded. A flash drive. Some statements from my accountant. Just PDFs, as far as I knew. They asked if I still had the drive. I don't, I said. I left it with the manager. Travis Delaney. That name made Claire freeze. Her face drained of color. They asked if I'd be willing to provide fingerprints, standard, they said, to rule things out. I agreed. Claire didn't say a word the entire time. After the agents left, she turned to me in the quiet, her voice low and tight. Nathan, what the hell was that? I shrugged. A misunderstanding, probably. You gave them a flash drive. I met her eyes. I was just doing what any potential client would. You work there. You know the protocols. She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Why didn't you tell me you went to the bank? Didn't think it was worth mentioning, I said simply. We don't exactly talk much these days, do we? Her lips parted. No words came out. And that's when I saw it. The flicker of fear. The moment she realized that something was wrong, not with the world, but with me. That maybe I wasn't just the quiet husband folding towels and fixing routers. That maybe, just maybe, she'd never really known what I was capable of. The next day, the news hit the internet in full force. Senior executive under fire amidst alleged crypto theft at Horizon Bank. Insider exploitation suspected. FBI assisting in internal probe. Claire's phone didn't stop ringing. Her inbox exploded. Delaney was suspended, pending investigation. She was named, briefly, in an internal memo as someone with close professional access. Her hands shook as she read it. She kept glancing at me across the room. Like I was some ticking bomb she didn't know how to disarm. Then, one evening, 2 days after the visit, she finally cracked. "You did this, didn't you?" I looked up from my book. Her voice trembled. "Tell me the truth, Nathan." I didn't say a word. Didn't confirm. Didn't deny. Just held her gaze until she looked away. Her breath hitched. "You're going to destroy everything. You think this is justice. You think this makes you better than me." And finally, I spoke. Quiet. Measured. "You already destroyed everything, Claire. I just made sure no one walked away clean." She flinched like I'd slapped her. Then, another knock at the door. This one, louder. More urgent. I opened it. 2 new agents. Warrants this time. Claire stood behind me, trembling. "What is this?" she whispered, voice small. One of the agents stepped forward. "Nathan Reed, you're under investigation for unauthorized access to a secure financial system. You are not under arrest at this time, but we need you to come with us for further questioning." I turned to Claire, and for the first time in months, I saw tears in her eyes. "Nathan," she said, voice cracking, "please, don't do this." I looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman who used to say, "I believe in you," with her head on my chest. The woman who now couldn't meet my gaze without trembling. And I whispered back, calm as steel, "While you were betraying me, I was preparing. That's fair, isn't it?" Then I walked out the door. The cell door closed behind me with a dull metallic thud. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just final. There's something strange about prison. It's not the steel, or the routines, or the way men move through hallways like ghosts wrapped in denim. It's the silence. It's how it wraps around you, thick and patient, until you can't remember what real sound used to feel like. They say I'm not a violent man. That's what the judge said during sentencing. Mr. Reed poses no physical threat. His actions were calculated, controlled, precise. The prosecution painted me as brilliant but unstable. The defense tried to spin it as a man pushed too far. They were both right. And both wrong. I pled down to a reduced sentence. 5 years, maybe less with good behavior. I didn't fight it. Didn't flinch. My lawyer asked me why I didn't try harder to avoid jail. I told him, because this is the first time in a long time I feel like I'm somewhere I actually belong. They processed me like they process everyone, photos, fingerprints, intake files. No special treatment. No spectacle. And honestly, I was grateful for that. I didn't want to be seen. Not anymore. The days blur together now. Wake up. Count. Eat. Breathe. Lights out. Repeat. And in between the routine, there's a kind of peace. A strange, unwanted peace. I read a lot. Mostly nonfiction. Systems theory, cryptography journals. I keep my mind busy. I let the quiet stretch out inside me like a second skin. Sometimes I think about Claire. I wonder where she is now. What she tells people. If she still walks around pretending she's the one who got hurt. The abandoned wife. The innocent bystander. Funny thing is, I don't even hate her anymore. You can't stay angry at a storm for wrecking your house. The storm just is. Destruction is in its nature. Claire was built for ambition, for control, for upward motion. I was just the launch pad. Disposable. And I let myself be that. That's the part that took the longest to forgive me. For being so damn quiet. So damn trusting. For letting someone dim my world one silent night at a time and still calling it love. But prison has a way of burning illusions down to ash. Here, I don't pretend anymore. I don't pretend to be okay. I don't pretend to be the man she needed. I don't pretend to be soft. And I don't speak unless I want to. There's this other inmate, Marcus. Huge guy. Doesn't talk much either. He asked me once, in the yard, "What did you do, man?" I didn't look up from my book. I just said, "I stopped being a ghost." He nodded like he understood. Maybe he did. Sometimes, I lie on my back in the cell at night and stare at the ceiling. I think about the man I was a year ago. The man fixing leaky sinks and waiting on kisses that never came. The man checking phone logs, wondering what he did wrong. The man afraid to ask for the truth because he already knew it would break him. That man's gone now. Buried beneath server logs and betrayal and $4 million of vanished digital dust. And what's left isn't rage. It's something quieter, heavier, stronger. The silence I carry now doesn't come from fear. It's not the silence of a man afraid to speak. It's the silence of a man who knows he doesn't need to. They took everything from me. My marriage. My freedom. My future. But not my mind. Not my clarity. Not the version of myself I rebuilt from shattered parts in this cell. So when people ask me, when new guys roll through and say, "Why are you so calm?" I just shrug. Because what they don't understand is this: I was broken once. But I've already buried that version of myself. And what walks through these halls now? It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be free. It just is. And for the first time in my life, that's enough.